Studio with Dara Green. Dara graduated from the School of the Art and Institute of Chicago in 1998. Went on to teach classes in Chicago public schools before she moved to Des Moines, where she started the first class that was dedicated to teaching throwing in their entire public school system. She received her National Board Certification in Early Adolescence through Young Adult Art in 2004 and recertified in 2014. She's a working artist, an amazing teacher, a heck of a lady, and the artist and owner of Halo Pottery by Dara. Ladies and gentlemen, Dara Green.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Appreciate it. All right. Thank you so much for coming to the session. We're going to get started here. Okay, we're going to keep this casual, although it does not feel casual when you're up here, let me just tell you. And I'm not used to being in one spot, so I'll be moving around a little bit. If you guys have questions throughout the presentation, please just go ahead and go up to the mic, and I will pause and answer your questions. There might be things that I miss or doesn't make sense in your head, so just let me know and I'll help you out. So again, welcome to Flipping the Studio. If you're feeling lucky, follow my class accounts, which is Central Academy Studios on Instagram, or the Twitter handles right there. We're gonna have a little prize at the end, and since my school device doesn't have internet service here, I'm gonna change it up a little bit. If you take any pictures during the presentation, on Instagram and hashtag it Central Academy Studio. At the end, hopefully we can figure out how to give that prize away. So that's that. Once again, I'm Dara Green, and this is Flipping Your Studio and the Powerful Impact of Social Media on Class Climate, Culture, and Curriculum. Like Dave mentioned, I went to the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. I taught in Chicago public schools for about 7 years before moving to Des Moines, where I currently teach. I teach 4 sections of throwing. Within each class is 3 levels of potters. So we have our beginners, our intermediates, and our advanced, which proposes some issues sometimes. I say a lot, so. In failure, we triumph. So let me tell you a little story of how kind of this all started. And my goal for you guys is to keep in mind that this is three years in the works, okay? So I started very simply. If you're a parent or a grandparent and you can take a video of your kid and post it on Facebook, that's all you need to know. That's how I started 3 years ago. But before that, a week before school was out, our kiln broke. So we had hundreds of pots that I wasn't going to be able to get to students. So I finally figured out, okay, I'll create a private Facebook group. I was able to find about 5 students that were currently in the class, and I asked those students to find the rest of our 80 potters. Within 3 days, every single one of our potters was in that private Facebook group, making it so that after school was out for the summer, I could notify them when to come back and get their pots. But at the same time, this really opened up my eyes to how I could use social media in my classroom. So like I said, it's a private Facebook group. I consider our Facebook group to be like an extension of our classroom. Therefore, only my students and former students are allowed in the group. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. So for a while, I was just using Facebook for like announcements, sharing resources, saying, hey, somebody forgot this water bottle in the studio, come get it. So it started out very simple. Now, we're gonna do a raise your hand, sorry, but raise your hand if you're familiar with what a flipped classroom is. Okay, raise your hand if you flipped some of your lessons already. Is anybody flipping their entire studio? Great, awesome, awesome. Okay, so for those of you who are new to flipped classroom or the concept of flipped classroom, I'm gonna show you a little video. And let me tell you that flipping a classroom is in all subject areas. So we have math teachers, English teachers, all types of teachers flipping their studios.
This is a classroom. The teacher stands at the front, and the students watch and listen. You'll recognize this because it's probably how you were taught, and how your parents were taught before you. But there are a lot of problems with this approach to teaching. You see, not all students learn at the same speed, so some get left behind. And while some students learn better by listening, others may learn better by doing. This means that teachers can't always do the best job they can, but there is another way. The flipped classroom addresses these problems and makes learning more personal. First, the teacher makes a video that delivers the content they'd usually teach in class. Then they share it online with students who can watch it before the next lesson. This leaves the teacher free to spend class time leading activities that help students apply the knowledge. Students can rewind and re-watch a video as many times as they like and come back to class with questions for the teacher. So keeping up with the class is no longer an issue. Students can access the video at any time using mobile devices, giving them the ability to learn more independently. Instead of sitting and listening, students can spend class time applying knowledge in more practical ways. And teachers are free to spend their time working with students and giving them individual support and attention. The flipped classroom model is already making a difference to students and teachers worldwide, so get involved. Discover more at flippedinstitute.org and become part of the movement.
So how I started off was very simple and very small. I learned about the flipped classroom, and so a couple years ago, I just started videoing my demos that I did in class for students that were absent. I already do at least 4 demos throughout the day, and then you have somebody absent, you have to do it again the next day, and then somebody else we all can relate to that, right? And while you're spending all that time getting people caught up, the people that actually showed up for class are getting a little bit neglected. So what I would do is at the beginning of every project, I would actually hand my cell phone to one of my students, and they would video the demo for me. I did not spend any time outside of class making videos at this point. It was just straight what I was teaching the day before. So here's a picture of students that happen to be absent. They are actually in class watching the previous demo that they missed and taking notes. And like I said, at this point, all I did was have the student do the video, and then I would upload it to that private Facebook group. Super, super simple. So people have asked me what was the student skill set versus teacher skill set. My goal from the very beginning when I started this whole journey was to meet students where they already were on social media. I had tried Edmodo and some of those other programs, and I found that myself, it was another password to remember, it was something else I had to check, and I didn't want to do that to my students. So meeting them on places like Facebook and Snapchat and Instagram, it was my goal. I didn't want this to be an extra task for them, and in turn, it kind of ended up to be just a part, or is a part of their daily lives. They're always on their phones. I'm not going to challenge that, but I will join it and utilize it for the goodness of our program. So in addition to that, I learned how to do YouTube and create a channel on YouTube, do Google Forms on Facebook, and Snapchat, which we'll talk about a little bit later, which is kind of unconventional for a classroom. And a lot of times, it was me asking the students for help. How do I get the filter on Snapchat? Was a big one. So keeping it super simple. Again, I did not spend any time outside the classroom filming anything. The students did the filming when I did my demo. And then I would eventually start doing supporting demos that I would film myself. No fancy equipment. If you see right here, I bought a $5 selfie stick, and I used a ball of clay. I stuck that selfie stick in the ball of clay, and that's what I used to still film all of my videos. The other interesting thing, and I'm sure you guys can relate, is when you're doing the same demo over and over and over, you forget some things, you add some things in here. I never knew which class really knew what. In this way, everyone's on the same page throughout the whole lesson. So not only was I meeting my student needs, but it was going beyond any expectation. So again, this became a part of their daily life. They would see my videos online, and then if you've been on YouTube, which hopefully you have, it feeds another video and another video and another video. So students started watching other Potters videos, coming into class with ideas beyond what I had taught them. They also, they're obsessed with Instagram. I've been taking pictures of Instagram Potters and sending it to them via our Facebook group during the conference. And they're now coming to me saying, hey, can you, see if Adam Field's there? And, throwing out these names, giving me names of people to follow and to see if they're at NCECA. So there's just gonna be a couple videos of students talking about their experience with our Flip Studio.
A lot of people need help, but Miss Greene can't be everywhere at once, and so the videos kind of make it possible for her to be, 10 places at one time, because she's just in people's phones. So if people need to ask a question, they can just go back and look at the video.
So, funny story, sometimes it's a little loud in our studio, and on multiple occasions, I've looked over and been like, oh my gosh, can you guys please be quiet over there? Little did I know, it was my voice on 10 different devices. Because not only do they watch the videos at home, but then they're reviewing them in class as they're working.
It's helped me, the videos allow me to go back and review the material as much as I want. That way I get every aspect of what's being taught and not forgetting any part of it, which can happen pretty often because there's so much to cover.
So when I started the flipped video, I didn't realize the impact it would have on students. I was most interested in me not wasting their class time with the wheels, doing demos. So if they could watch the demos at home, that meant in class they would have the whole time to work, and then I would have the whole time to work with them one-on-one. But little did I realize is that it provided me to them as many times as they needed it. So I have some students that might watch the video once or twice. I have some students that will watch the video, come in and go back and watch the video, to the point now where there's even students that are watching the video and then bringing their phones to the wheels and watching one step and pausing it, watching another step and pausing it. So they can get the repetition, they can break it down to meet their needs, which is huge. We once tried to write down, I should back up a little bit. I teach in a school that's kind of like a magnet school for gifted and talented. So we do have some of those artsy kids, but a lot of my kids are gifted in math and science. And this is the first art class they've taken since elementary school. They're not really of that mindset. And so they wanted something a little bit more concrete. So we were gonna try to write down all the steps to throwing a cylinder. Oh my gosh, we had to stop at 89 because it was just way too much. And in the past, I would do a demo at the beginning of the project, and then they would have a month to work on it. Well, I expected them to remember every single thing in that 20 minutes for the next entire month. It's just unrealistic, but this way they can go back as many times and watch the video. So another huge change was, for the first time ever, my students were in control of their learning. I've been teaching for 18 years, and I feel like, I was the holder of the information, and it was only given at certain times. But now, students had complete control. They could get that information when they needed it, how they needed it, and as many times as they needed it. Also in the past, if I was busy with another student, or if I was at a conference, their learning was on hold, and now it's not. They're completely functioning in Iowa as we speak. Also, having teach 18 years, I often, no matter how good the day went, I always went home feeling defeated. I knew that there was that one kid in the back of the studio that I didn't get to talk to today, and that's really draining. And this was the first time ever that I honestly felt like I was meeting everyone's needs. I'm a much happier and chill person because of it. So traditionally, before the flipped classroom, we expected, or we preached or lectured in the classroom, and the students were very passive. But with the flipped classroom, that passive activity is done at home, and then the active activity, which is when they need the teacher's help, is done at school, where we're able to help them. So this is what our studio looks like. I'm sure many of yours looks the same. There's not a lot of sitting, there's a lot of action. Although now this is almost bell to bell. I will say that although I don't do any direct full class instruction during the class is still very structured. I open every classroom with a class meeting or a studio meeting, and I close every class with a studio meeting. And it's just kind of my way of keeping that type of control or class management. So I handed out some cards. I have cards up here if you didn't get one. We're gonna go through all the different social media and a little bit more of the flipped video aspect of our curriculum. Yeah.
How long are your classes?
Yep, we meet every other day. We're in block schedule and we have 85 minutes. We used to teach 60 minutes every day. Yeah.
What kind of topics do you discuss during the class meeting, the beginning and the end?
Sometimes I literally make something up to talk about just so we can keep that structure because I think it's very important. It's things like what they're supposed to be working on, when the kiln's getting unloaded, show announcements, anything like that. Housekeeping.
I do a lot of what you mentioned. What do you do with the kids who don't watch the videos?
Yeah, good question. This is I think super great about the flip video and about teaching throwing is if you haven't watched the video, like you're gonna look like an idiot because you're not gonna know how to do anything. So some of them do try to get by, but it's totally obvious that they haven't watched the video. And I don't penalize anybody for watching the video. I do collect data because we're supposed to collect data on who's watching the videos, but that doesn't go into the grade or anything. I don't lecture them. If they didn't watch the video and it's obvious that they didn't watch the video, I say, hey, go over and watch the video before you get started. And then everybody else is working and now they have to waste their time watching the video in class. And so I've chosen not to have an issue with that. I will also say it's not like the majority of them are watching the video, so it's not an issue. Yep. Any other questions? It's hard because I know it so well that I know I'm missing things. So YouTube. So I created a YouTube channel, had no clue how to do that, so I Googled it. So if you don't know how to do something, just Google it and find it on YouTube. So anyways, our Facebook group is public. I direct the students from our Facebook page to our YouTube channel to watch the videos. This is nice too because it's always hard to find subs for a pottery studio. And so now actually my subs will watch the videos also, so they're familiar with what the students are supposed to be doing. I also have other teachers in our district and state who teach kind of like, they have 3 wheels, and so they just have a few students on the wheel. And so their students actually use my videos as a part of their learning all across the state, so that's kind of nice. What was I just on? Oh yeah. Sorry, so that's the YouTube channel. So this is the data collecting thing. And honestly, I don't know if you're if you guys hear data every other word, but we do in our district. And my, I think my most important data is that the year I flipped my classroom, we ran out of clay in about February because the students were progressing so quickly than they ever had before that we had to reorder clay. So I kind of wanted to like turn in the supply order for my official data for that. So Google Forms. The first year I did it, I was not keeping track of who was watching the videos. Like, I didn't know how to do that yet, so I didn't. But then I learned about Google Forms. It's super easy. You go into Google, you create a form. So I go on and I create a form for each project. And then in that form, I'll have the link to the video. So, and then I post that Google form onto our Facebook page. So they go onto the Facebook page, they find the Google form, they fill out the Google form, which is their first name, last name, block, and what level they are, so that I can organize that when I'm looking at the results. They answer a few questions that they will have had to watch the video to answer. And then I get that information. Google will put it in tons of different forms for me to look at that information. Because of my clientele being the gifted and talented and highly motivated student, even though I'm not grading them on this, nor do I think they should be graded on this, they still do it because that's the type of people they are. So Snapchat. Snapchat is a little bit weird. Does anybody else have Snapchat in their studios yet? Good. Next year, there's going to be like a lot more hands going up. Snapchat is a little bit weird for the classroom, and it came about by one of my students saying, "Hey, Mrs. Green, we should have Snapchat for the studio." And I was like, "Okay, let's give it a try." I had no expectations. They taught me how to set it up. Excuse me. And what happened is, instead of having 4 different classes or blocks, all separate and learning in these small communities, we would snap throughout the entire day. So somebody in block 1 could see what somebody in block 4 was doing. So it really broadened our community to like a big whole happy family, where I would have students coming in and saying, "Oh, I saw such and such in block 2 do this. How did they do that?" Sorry. And this is all done by me, but also we have guest snappers, which they're totally into. So if somebody has downtime, they'll ask if they can take control of the iPod and be the guest snapper. Do you have a question?
I did. I wonder, does your school have a policy in regards to cell phones? Because in that sense, ours is they're not to be used.
Yeah, I think that's super sad. Nope, it's not an issue at all. Some teachers choose to have students leave them at the door, not bring them in. You will see tons of devices out in my classroom at all times. We use it for research. We use it for, we use them all the time. So luckily that's not an issue. I would say if it was an issue in your school, if your students have home computers, they could watch videos at home. I really like the aspect of my students being able to watch them on the go or as they're riding the bus to a trek meet, those kind of things. Yeah, they really want you to use a microphone. I know, it's so weird, right? I'll just give you a couple seconds.
Did you say that you have a class iPod
Yes.
to use? Okay.
Yes, let me explain that. Is that your?
I had one more follow-up.
Go ahead.
The other is if you have students in your class that don't have phones.
Yes.
Okay.
So when I first started, I was doing it all from my own phone. And I found it difficult to separate accounts. So I have my own personal account, and I didn't know how to add a different Instagram account, and I didn't want to be switching back and forth. And so throughout this process, our district has developed a program called Trailblazers. And we have a lot of different initiatives in our district that teachers can get paid to do extra. This was the one thing that we don't get paid to do extra. although I chose to do it because I knew that I could get some devices. So they have supported me in getting a class iPod, which is what we use for most of our posting. And then we also have iPads that students can watch the videos on or do research on. I will say that they don't get used very much because most of my students do have devices. Yep. So Twitter, not a huge fan of Twitter. The students really aren't on Twitter, although my district is a huge fan of Twitter, and we still have quite a few parents on Twitter. And so we use Twitter. So Facebook is private. Nobody except for our students and our alum can get into Facebook. I've had parents request to join, and I have to turn them down, explaining to them like I wouldn't be able to do a background check on each one of you, and it would just be too confusing. So Twitter and Instagram, and actually Snapchat too, parents, districts, admin, anybody can follow us. And we really use that for showcasing student work and promoting student accomplishments. We don't have any place in our studio to, in our school to display ceramics. And so it's been a constant struggle with me of how to get that out there until we came upon social media. So that's how parents and community members see our work. Instagram, I would say this and Snapchat are probably the biggest or the most popular ones among students. Again, these are public. Hopefully some of you followed us today. Again, we use it for students, parents, and community, promoting and showcasing our student work. I went to NCECA last year where they did like the hide and seek. And so taking that idea, we now do what we call undercover pots at our school through Instagram. And so once a week or so, I or one of my students will go hide a pot. We made up these little cards to go with them, and then we post it to our Instagram account. And I just thought this would be fun for my students to make the pots, to share the pots. But what happened was it really has ended up to be a great promotion strategy for my class, because now non-potters are finding the pots, and then they're going onto our Instagram account, and then they're seeing all the great things, and then they're also wanting to take pottery. And it's again just building that community beyond our studio. Periscope. Raise your hand if you're on Periscope, know about Periscope. Okay, so Periscope is like Twitter's live feed, or you can live broadcast yourself. In the past, I've always wanted to have visiting artists come in, but I'm a strong believer that artists should be paid, and it was really hard with my district and all the red tape to figure out how to pay independent artists to come into our studio until I discovered Periscope. So with Periscope, we have an account set up on our iPod, and it will just pop up that Tim C is now live, or such and such is now live. So before, it was like impossible to get artists or pay artists to come in, and now it's kind of like they're knocking on our doors, like asking to come in. And it's really cool because I can project the Periscope from the iPod onto like our whiteboard. And the students can ask the artist questions. The artist will respond. So how it works is like the students or I would ask a question and it's typed out on the screen, and then Tim C will be like, well, this is why I don't like this, and this is what I'm using here. So it's like instant feedback, and it's like going on gallery or studio visits all the time. And it's free. So, yeah.
Question about Periscope. So you have a lot of artists that are just on that program from all over the country.
Yeah, world. Yep.
If they are in the country and you did want to give them like a tax write-off form for can they get paid in that way, or can you
Yeah,
offer
it's
them
just
that?
a lot of like the amount of paperwork I would have to fill out and to get a visiting artist to come to my school.
Not to
Oh.
through Periscope. Through Periscope, if you want to give them a tax write-off form for,
Oh, I
giving
don't
their
feel
time.
guilty about Periscope because they're asking to be seen.
Okay,
Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean,
thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. Right? I mean, they want to be seen, so I love it. So we always have visitors coming through. We always have admin doing visits. And so this is the warning on the left here that is found on my door before anybody comes into my classroom. And it explains that they are not ever going to see any full class direct instruction in this studio, and why that is. So anybody who's doing a flip studio, I recommend doing this for observations and so on. And what's interesting is now I'm kind of one of the stops on the tour because of this. Whereas before people knew about it, this might have been questionable, like, I can't check that box because she's not actually standing up and preaching in front of her class. We also have standard reference grading in our school, and so that's another thing that they look for when they walk through. And so we always have a project plan that's posted for visitors and admin to see, and then, of course, for the students to use and reference. So this is the first time in my 18 years of teaching that I feel like I'm doing my job to the very fullest, that I'm meeting all my students' needs. But I'm not only a teacher, but a mother. And I have a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old. This is really awkward, having somebody take pictures of you. I know, they don't normally talk to you, do they? So I have a 4 and a 6-year-old, right? And I want to go and volunteer in their classroom and do all those things, but I'm teaching all these other people's children all day. And so my daughter and I came up with the idea of flipping a parent lesson for her class. And so I'm just going to show you just a couple seconds of that.
Hi, class. My name is Mrs. Greene, and this is my daughter, Gilly. And we're going to show you a really cool project today that you'll be able to do in school. First of all, does anybody recognize this picture? Let's see. See if you can see it on the screen. You guys recognize that at all? Gilly, do you recognize that?
Yeah.
Where do you recognize it?
Okay, I'm going to stop right there. Don't go to questions yet. Because it's all a learning process. So Gilly and I made the video for her kindergarten class to do their little art project. I felt like I was winning as a mother, which is hard to do. But something we learned there, I asked Gilly, do you recognize this picture? And she goes, yes, it's on my daddy's work. And then she goes, it's right across the street from our school. And then she started saying all of this information that we would not want publicly on YouTube, right? So this particular video is set up private and only shared with her teacher. So those are things that you do need to kind of keep in mind when you're doing your videos, is you don't want to refer necessarily to your location or your school or a street or a mural across the school like we did. So some things to keep in mind. Questions?
Hi.
Hi.
Your last comment segues into this, but have you had any boundary issues with connecting to students on Facebook and Snapchat primarily from their end?
Yes. If I understand what you're saying, I think so. So I have had some students who are grounded from Facebook. Is that what you're asking? Like if they can't access
My
it?
question is, I teach high schoolers, and unfortunately, teenagers post things on social media that if I were to see, if I had that information, perhaps I would need to intervene. And so it puts you in a position of being a mandated reporter and all of just a lot of gray area.
I'm going to talk about those two different things. If you're grounded from Facebook or that situation. The private Facebook group, when I talk to my students about it, I make it very clear that I can't see, if you're in a private Facebook group, you can't see members' profiles and things. Really all you can see is their profile picture. So I always tell them that if they have a hoochie mama profile picture, I will judge them. So take it down and switch it. But besides that, they can't see my business and I can't see theirs. On Snapchat, I pinky promise that I will not follow anyone back. And mind you, it is on our class iPod, so at any time, anybody could see that the studio doesn't follow anybody back. Snapchat does not like that. I get like messages all the time. Make friends, find some friends. So that's how I avoid that. I avoid seeing their stuff at all costs. I mean, there isn't any way that I would see their stuff, so that's not an issue. I have come across students that don't have Facebook, students that have been grounded from Facebook, and students that are awesomely rejecting all social media, which I totally think is awesome. Ways we've gotten around that is talking to parents when they're grounded from Facebook. Also, students that don't have Facebook, what I tell them to do is like take their first name and add Potter as a last name. So, you know, Melanie Potter. And then they join Facebook under that name and they only use it for our class. That way, like other people can't find them, friends can't find them. It would be the same thing if they set up an Edmodo thing. And then the students that totally reject social media, they will usually still go on and watch the YouTube channel or videos. If not, I just have them do it in class.
Hi. So I just wanted to mention that on Instagram, there's a lot of groups of high schools that have Instagrams, and we do hashtag high school ceramics.
Oh, great.
So it's been really good to connect with high school teachers and ceramics teachers all around, so that's really helped. And then also on Facebook, there's a couple of high school ceramics groups that a lot of teachers collaborate on. So there's K through 12 ceramics, and there's also high school ceramics. So those have been really helpful to get information. And then also the students can see what other high school students are doing with that hashtag, so they use that a lot too. So it's pretty cool that way.
Yeah, so now we're not only opening it up to all of our classes, we're now opening it up to classes all over. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's great. And I need to write it down at some point.
Are you at all concerned that there's going to be a new thing every year that you're going to have to do, and that all this other stuff that you've already invested in is going to drop off and it's never ending?
It is never ending, and it's going to be never ending, and I get very overwhelmed by that. Also, the same thing with exercise. Like, it just, like, I have to keep doing it, right? I mean, and so technology and exercising are my two weak points. I'm not going to lie. I have a Weebly website. I used to do a blog. Things do drop off. Things like the blog, that was too much work for me. My work here is minimal, and if anything, I'm making a bigger impact on students, and they're doing most of the work. So yeah, I mean, it's like Twitter was like here and gone. I mean, by the time I got to Twitter, the kids were like, yeah, we don't use Twitter. But the parents still do, so I'm totally open to that and expect that. Other questions?
Hello. I am wondering if you do lectures, if you videotape your lectures at all. Do you do, like when you're doing art history stuff, contemporary ceramics?
Yeah, no, I don't video the lectures. We do still go through like slides as a group, and mostly because I think of that as like, the students are giving feedback, the students are talking about the processes that they're seeing, and it needs that interaction. So no, I'm not, but.
One that's out would you kind of have them go through the?
Yes,
Yeah.
so then I can just post that PowerPoint on our Facebook page. Yep.
I rolled in a little bit late.
That's all right.
Did you explain the process of making your videos?
Yep, a $5 selfie stick, a ball of clay, stick the selfie stick in the ball of clay, and I make the video. That's it.
That sounds expensive.
There's no, what I really, okay, so I want you to think about, you know, how might you use this in your classroom? My daughter's teacher actually has now, she teaches, well, kindergarten, first grade combined, and she now makes flipped videos for their centers. I know there's a lot of choice teachers that will make videos for their different centers. So you might not fully flip, but let's say you have a project, if students get done earlier or want to go above and beyond, you could flip that video. You don't have to fully flip your studio in order for it to be effective. But I do hope that you take away from this that I spent no extra time outside of class or out of contract time doing this. If you research flip videos, you'll find people that use like green screens and they have graphics and they do all this fancy stuff, and that's great. But I can barely make it to the grocery store once a week to feed my kids. So I keep it super, super simple. Another thing to keep in mind when I'm doing my videos, they go from year to year. So that first year I did it, just to try it out for the kids that were absent, I videoed all my in-class demos that I then was able to just use the next year. And then the following year, I started doing additional videos to strengthen the lesson. So I was just adding more content. So, you know, before they were getting this level of education, and then I was able to add more content, and they're getting this level of education. And then this year what I've been doing is we start off with my videos, and now I'm making kind of above and beyond playlists that go along with the project of other people, of other potters. So that's a part of our YouTube channel. They can go on and see how, you know, 5 other artists do sgraffito. So it's really increased learning, increase the quality of product in my classroom.
Taking different kinds of learners into mind too, are there ways of like providing closed caption, like narrative written in the videos?
I think on YouTube there's that feature. I haven't used it yet because I haven't had a need, but I'm pretty sure that you can do that right on YouTube.
And would YouTube also offer that as like a translation opportunity for different language learners?
I'm not sure, but that would be.
Can I comment on that?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. So I have English language learners and special needs. So what I do is I do closed captionings, and I also provided guided notes, and we play the videos at the beginning of the unit or project. And so we go over it as a class first, and then we go, and then those ones, and then there's other opportunities for more learning, like more advanced techniques within the project that the more advanced students then can go. But they can do closed captioning, especially if you have subtitles. You can work it out that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, the possibilities are endless. I'll say another cool thing about the Facebook group. We don't ever kick out our graduating students, and so our Facebook group keeps growing and growing. And now we have students studying at ceramics at Kansas City Art Institute and all over the place. Students that go to college and they finally found the clay club, and then they post things in our Facebook group for our high schoolers to see, and they're still connected to us. They're also super sweet because they'll come on and give feedback to our potters, encouraging words of those beginning months of pottery. The Facebook group is also nice because if something comes out of the kiln and somebody really likes it, but it's not a potter from their class, they take a picture of it and they say, hey, you know, what glaze did you use, or how did you do this surface? And then somebody in 2 blocks later, who it's their pot, will answer those questions. We also do something called Best of Kiln. So every time a glaze kiln is unloaded, whoever unloads the kiln picks 2 or 3 of their favorite pieces, and then we photograph it like in our little photo booth, and that gets put on all of our social media accounts. And I teach my students to do all of these things. So for an example, this morning I woke up, we're 2 hours behind them. So this morning I woke up and they had already unloaded the kiln and posted the Best of Kiln pictures while I'm here in Portland, which is awesome. More questions? I'm going to, did anybody tag? Did anybody take a picture and tag? I don't think so. Okay. I know, the internet, did you say no internet? I know, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm having the same issue. Hey, Jen, can I just have you come up and like take that would be much smarter, right? So this is Jen, everyone. She's gonna talk to you just for a couple minutes.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jenny, or Jen, or whatever. But I'm in the process of writing a book on ceramics in the K-12 classroom, which is based on my thesis that I wrote at the University of Florida. And part of that book is going to be a chapter of curated lesson plans. And so I'm not actually even at the point to send out the call, but I have some business cards that I could pass out to anybody who'd be interested, and then you could email me, just put me on the mailing list. And when I am ready, I'll send you out a template that you would fill in and submit, and then I'll let you know if you get in, and there'll be like small compensation and a copy of the book. So, but thank you so much for your presentation. I appreciate it, and just talk to me afterwards if anyone has questions.
Great, thanks, Jenny. The I was really small on your card. Any more questions? All right, so I hope this just challenges you to think of how you can blend technology into your ceramic studio and make pottery a daily occurrence in your students' lives. I'm available for questions. I'll go back there if anybody has any questions, but yeah, thanks for your guys' time. Enjoy the rest of your conference. Thanks.